Oh yes, I had just come back from that conference, so I went and spoke at that conference, that hormone conference for women in Kentucky the week before. And I was home after the conference, after being away from my family for many days, and I was just like so happy to be home. And I was there in the bed. I'm already like super off track with my exercises. I was trying to do something most days while I was there, but I was a bit off track. And so when I got home, I remember like, okay, I'm ready to get back on track. And I remember being in the bed that morning and thinking like, oh, I feel so comfortable. I'm in my own bed. My husband and I were lying there together, and I was like, oh, I feel so comfortable. And I thought to myself, if I don't get up soon, I am not going to get my workout in. And I thought to myself, oh, I feel so comfortable though. And then I stopped myself because I've been thinking about this idea that our beliefs really dictate our behaviors. And so I asked myself in the moment, I said, why am I like, what am I believing that's leading me to not get up out of this bed right now? And what can I do about that? And so I thought about it. I just took a moment to think about what I was thinking, which I think is a lost art of mine. And so I said, well, I'm thinking that I'm more comfortable in this bed than I would be exercising. And I said, well, is that true? And I was like, well, maybe. But what is another thought that would actually make me get up? And the thought is, man, I would be so much more comfortable for the rest of my life if I were strong. Like, how uncomfortable will it be if I can't, like one of my clients, if I can't get up and down off the toilet without a lift on the seat? How uncomfortable would it be if I fall and break my hip? Like, how uncomfortable would it be if I can't play with my kids? I mean, I'm in my mid 40s and I have a 6-year old. He's going to play for a long time. Like, how uncomfortable would it be if I can't do all the things I want to do and use my body at my command and go to the places I want to go because I'm not strong enough or I have problems, with my body? And that made me jump right out of bed. And it wasn't that I was starting to attack myself and my thoughts on the behavior itself. It wasn't like, oh, look at you, you're laying in bed, you should be getting up, you need to do this behavior because it's good for you, you need to get up, you need to work out because it's good for you. Oh, but and then I'm arguing with myself, I don't feel like it. But no, I went a step deeper and I started thinking about what is my belief right now? What am I believing that's causing the behavior? So instead of focusing on the behavior itself, we go a layer deeper and we focus on the belief that's leading to the behavior. And we got to talking about that the week before last. And it was just such a wonderful time that we had really chatting on that. And so this is a continuation of that because I recognize that we can be doing behaviors or not doing behaviors that we want to do, but for whatever reason we aren't doing it. And then we can get into this spiral of shame or guilt around it, and that can really retard our progress. So I want us to really start making it a process. And this is something that I'm working on in my own life, even with my kids. And I really think it's super helpful. And that is my framework that I've recently been mulling over. Sometimes I'll write a framework and I'm like trying to figure out what's the best way of wording this. And I think I have it at least to where I want it right now. And this process that I have is called Renew. And Renew is basically something that I want us to get in the habit of using when we are feeling discouraged or when we have a behavior that we don't like that we do, or behavior that we want to do that we aren't doing. And I want us to start digging into our mindset to figure out what's the belief that I'm believing that's keeping me back from seeing the progress that I want. This is also a spinoff of my call yesterday. I did my weekly class yesterday, which is one of those that's kind of free for anybody to join. And we talk about some basic things. And also Mango Mama Circle ladies are also able to do that, come into that call. And I had a lady in there who was saying, hey, I I've been doing the exercises, for a little while, and I'm feeling stronger. I'm feeling stronger. I'm able to do workouts that I haven't ever been able to do, and she was like, I really am feeling stronger. She's like, but I'm not seeing the visual results that I'm wanting to see yet. And she was just like, I know I need to lose weight. I just still want to see more results, in the meantime. And I could tell, I know she was discouraged, and I was just like, okay, yes, I hear you. I said, I want those visual results for you too. I said, but let's see here what we need to do. What is it that you feel like is the result of you not having the visual results? Okay, so you're feeling stronger, but you're not having the visual results. What are you thinking at this point? And she was just like, well, I'm not sure, how I should move forward and what I should do. And I know what I've noticed, and not with her, because she's one who really will try to stick to it. She just wants to make sure she's doing the right thing. But what I'll see sometimes happen with some ladies is they'll do something for a period of time, and even though they're seeing or feeling stronger, they're not seeing the visual results. They might decide, okay, well, maybe this isn't working, and I'm going to quit. Now, that's not what she's going to do, but and so we have to dig a little bit deeper. I'm just like, okay, well, we know quitting isn't going to get us to our goal. So that's not an option, right? We just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. Um, and so we really want to kind of uncover what it is we're believing that would lead us to quit, and really try to replace that with the actual truth. So we're going to actually go through that particular scenario as we go through this particular framework. So, in our renew framework, and again, this is the thing that I want us to start practicing so that we can overcome discouragement and start doing the behaviors we want to do, or stop doing behaviors we don't want to do, on a layer deeper than just focusing on the behavior, focusing on the shame and guilt of not doing it. Let's go a bit deeper to the actual belief that's keeping us doing this, okay? So, with her example, I want us to actually go through this framework. So let me pull up hers because I actually already kind of mapped it out. The first thing that I want us to do when it comes to, like I said, the behavior that we're doing that we don't want to do, or behavior that we want to do that we aren't doing, or we're just feeling discouraged in general. This is what I want us to do. The very first thing that I want us to do is recognize. Recognize. Recognize what happened slash what I'm feeling. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is recognize what happened or what we're feeling. Because sometimes what I'll find with my ladies who are feeling like, okay, I remember I had this one. I'm not sure if she was serious or not, but she was in my group years ago, in my Facebook support group when I first started doing this. And I remember she was like, I've been doing the exercises faithfully and I haven't seen any progress. And she would post before and after pictures in our support group. This is before I was even charging. I was just kind of sharing and we were learning together. And I was like, how long have you been doing the exercises faithfully? And she would say something like, I am not making this up, 10 days, 9 days, 11 days. And I'm like, and she was like, yeah, I'm not going to do this anymore. She would quit, like, and she would do that every once in a while. I would see her post and we're like, is everything okay over there? Because she would literally do it for a short period of time, post before and after pictures of her belly, and then she would say that she was quitting, and she would kind of start and stop and all that, which starting and stopping is so normal, especially in the beginning, because we're like, want to make sure we're doing it right, we want to see results and all of this. But what we would want to recognize is what happened, what she was feeling. She was doing the exercises, she was feeling like it wasn't working, and so she would quit and she would just stop. So what would happen is she'd stop doing the exercises. So we want to recognize first what we're feeling, or what happened. So sometimes we could be feeling discouraged, and that can keep us from doing the exercises. That's what happens. We feel discouraged, we stop doing it, or we feel like whatever it is that we feel like is leading us to actually not do the exercises or not do said behavior, or continue doing a behavior that we're not wanting. So the first thing we want to do is recognize what's actually happening, or what we're feeling. And that was the same thing, like when I was in the bed that morning and I was just so happy to be home, so happy to be back with my family. And I was thinking like, okay, I feel more comfortable just lying in my bed. That's what I'm feeling. I don't feel like doing my exercises. I don't feel like getting up and doing that. And so I had to recognize that's what I was feeling. And what was going to happen is if I didn't get up, I was not going to do my exercises. So first we want to recognize that. Okay. The second step is expose what I'm believing. So expose what I'm believing or the underlying belief to that feeling or to what's happening. Okay. So the next thing is exposing what I'm believing. And this is a part that I often don't do. And I've been working on doing this lately in my own life and been practicing this with my kids. And I want us all to get in the habit of taking time. Like I said, it's kind of a lost art for us sometimes because we're so busy doing so much good in the world that we don't take time sometimes to evaluate what we're doing and not doing to take care of ourselves. And so taking time to actually dig deep, what am I believing? What am I believing? Like I had to lay in bed and think to myself, what am I believing? What would have happened was I would have literally just stayed in the comfort of my own bed and not done the workouts. And then I would have beat myself up over not having done the workout. But I could take a moment and say what happened. Maybe I didn't do my workout. Let's just say I didn't. But then I could expose what I was believing. Because if I go to that level, that could prevent it from happening again. At least I could get into my mindset and start thinking it through. And what I'm believing was I'm more comfortable in my bed. I'm more comfortable in my bed. That was my thought. Okay. So expose what I'm believing. And this takes a moment. And this is, I think, an important part because a lot of times we don't realize the lies that we're believing. This is what we talked about the week before last. A lot of times, what's keeping us from doing a behavior that we want, or what's keeping us from feeling some kind of way about a thing, what's keeping us from stopping a behavior that we may want to stop is because we're believing some sort of lie and we haven't taken a moment to think about it, to uncover it. And when I was laying in that bed that morning, I had to think, what am I believing? And what I was believing was I was more comfortable skipping my workout and staying in bed. But is that true? Not in the long term. My future self would not thank me for sitting in that laying in that bed every single day. Now, if I did it once every once in a while, it's not going to kill me. But if I make that a habit of just picking the comfort of my bed over my workout every morning, that's not going to lead to the results that I'm wanting. I'll be way more comfortable being strong, right? Okay, so this is a lost art, and I want us to start practicing this. I'm doing this myself, so I'm preaching to the choir. Well, not preaching to the choir, but I'm preaching to myself. Let me say that. Expose what I'm believing. So taking a moment to sit and think, what am I believing? Okay, so N is name the truth. Name the truth. Okay. So for me, what I was believing was I'm more comfortable in my bed than doing my exercise. Then I had to name the truth. I'll be way more comfortable being strong as I age. I'll be way more comfortable being strong, even if I'm tired. As you know, as women, sometimes we're so busy doing for everybody else that we're tired. But I saw this meme one day. I thought it was so funny and it was so true. And I was like, as women or as moms, especially, sometimes it's like, I'm going to be tired either way. Okay, let me just say, as me in perimenopause, on those days that I don't get good sleep, at night, it's like either way, I'm going to be tired. But now I have two choices. I can be tired and strong or tired and weak. And just saying that to myself, it makes me like, okay, I'd rather be tired and strong, not tired and weak. So some things that might be a mainstay in our lives, but we have to ask ourselves, what's the truth? Will I be comfortable being weak as I age? No, I will not be comfortable. I will not be comfortable. So we want to name the truth. And this right here is really the central part of this whole framework is taking a moment to think about what we are believing that's leading to this behavior and then naming the truth itself. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to exchange the lie for the truth. All right. And this is something that takes practice. This is not something that happens overnight. Even now that I've like learning this framework and I'm thinking about it and I'm really trying to use this for my own mental, thought processes, it's not something that we will get overnight. We won't be perfect because we understand this, but we will start taking steps to changing our mind. You know where I got this framework, even the name Renew? There's a verse in the Bible. It's Romans 12, somewhere in 1, 2, or 3. Okay. And it talks about being transformed by the renewing of our mind. And that's something I've been thinking about in my personal and spiritual walk, but as I've been thinking about it more and more, it applies to like everything in life. Because we really believe so many lies, whether it's from our childhood, whether it's from media, whether it's from people close to us or people who don't care about us. There's so many lies that we believe that cause bad behavior. And it's a process to renew our minds, and this is part of that process. And that is understanding what we are believing that's causing a bad behavior. I can guarantee you that if we have a behavior that we're not appreciating, if we are discouraged about something that's going on in what we're doing now, even with trying to strengthen our bodies and strengthen our core, there's a lie under there that we have to uncover. There's a lie, and it's not the behavior is not the issue. It's the belief that's the issue. It's the lie that's the issue. And so we need to unpack that lie, name the actual truth, and practice exchanging a lie for the truth. And that takes time. And I'll do a little bonus here because one thing what I don't want us to do is feel like, okay, now that we know this information, I should be able to conquer all my behaviors. No, it's a process. So let me back up a little bit. We're going to look at I do a talk on habit formation. And how the brain works, we talk about neuroplasticity. I know some of you are in the healthcare field. I have a couple of you actually that are in the mental health space. So you could probably teach this better than I can. But what I think is so amazing, and I just love that the brain was designed this way, that our brain is capable of adapting at any age. And we have this thing called neuroplasticity where we can learn new things. Our brain can learn new things, even at the ages that we're at. It doesn't not just for 7 and below. But what happens is we have to we have to repeatedly do a behavior for it to really become sticky. And we have nerves. I'm just going to make this up. It probably looks more, like this, globular, right? We have nerves, and the nerves connect to each other in somewhat of a pathway. And they can create pathways in our brains. And this is what happens when we do something like learning the piano. When we first start learning a piano or learning how to walk, we've had that analogy before, or learning how to drive. My son is 16. He's learning how to drive. And I told him, I said, you know what? I know you've read all the books, you've done all the little courses and classes, but you're going to have to start driving to learn how to drive because it will become more natural. And I can remember when you first learn how to drive, you have to almost turn off the radio so you can think, and you have to like stay focused on everything and just make sure you're so almost nervous because you're like just kind of focusing everything so new. You're like, okay, I need to shift, I need to do this, I need to do that. And as you are learning, you're making connections in your brain. But the more that you practice the behavior, the stronger those connections get. Okay. And to the point where now a lot of us can drive without thinking about it. We might end up at home if we don't, if we're not thinking enough because we're so used to driving home, we might be driving somewhere else, but without even thinking about it, you can drive to a destination without much thought. That's because these pathways become so strong in the brain. Well, it's not just physical behaviors that this happens with, it's even habits of thought. Habits of thought need repetition to become strengthened. Okay. So let's say that whenever I miss a workout, I think to myself, oh man, I'm such an inconsistent person. I'm so undisciplined. See, this will never work. I'll never work. It never worked for me. That's a habit of thought. Not only is it a habit of thought, but the question is that thought true? Can you not learn? Now, I believe As humans, we're made to be able to learn. So the reality is that's not true. But the brain doesn't know that. We have a habit of thought. Every time we miss the workout, we think, I'm not motivated. See, I'm not disciplined. See, I'm not. So we have this habit of thought. Now we want to create a new pathway. We want to expose what we're believing. We believe every time we miss a workout that we're not disciplined, we're not motivated, we're never going to do. That's what we're believing, and we need to expose that as a lie. Like, you know what? That's not true. I can learn. We can name the truth, and now we can exchange the truth for the lie. But let me tell you something, and this is why I just want to put this in for encouragement. Just because we're learning this renewed framework doesn't mean it's all going to happen overnight. It takes time. Why? Because just like you had a habit of thought, maybe believing a lie for so long, when an event happens, we're automatically going to keep believing this lie, except for we take the time to think, is that true? No. What is true? What's true is that I can learn and my body can adapt and I can get healthier and stronger. Okay? So instead of believing this pathway, we stop, we expose what we're believing, we name the truth, and we exchange the truth for the lie. Or we exchange yes, we put the truth in place of the lie. So instead of taking this pathway, we're going to stop that. And now we're going to go in this pathway. But will that pathway be easy? It's like having two pathways in the woods. If we've walked this pathway over and over, it's going to be easy to walk that pathway. The pathway doesn't go anywhere, even in the brain. But we can make a new pathway. And the goal is to keep repeating this new habit of thought, just like you repeat a new behavior over and over again until it gets stronger. And in the meantime, I want us to be patient with ourselves. I want us not to feel like, okay, I know I'm supposed to recognize what happened, recognize what I'm feeling. Okay, I got to expose what I'm believing, name the truth, exchange the lie for the truth, and then I'm supposed to magically all my behaviors get better. It doesn't happen overnight. What our goal is to keep walking that path over and over again until that path actually gets bigger and stronger than this path so that it will be the path of least resistance to the point where you won't even have to think about it anymore. You'll get up in the morning and instead of just, ooh, I love the comfort of my bed, you'll say like, I'll be comfortable again when I get in it tonight, but I'll be way more comfortable being strong. That will be the new thought without even thinking. But that takes time, just like walking, just like learning to ride a bike, just like driving, just like it's a pattern of thought, it's a habit of thinking, and that takes time to develop. So we want to be patient with ourselves and keep repeating this new habit of thought. Whatever the truth is that you're learning, that is being exchanged for the lie, we just want to be patient with ourselves and keep thinking that thought. Keep rehearsing that new truth. Keep acting on that new truth. And in time, it'll get easier and easier. That will be the path of least resistance, and you will no longer go that path. You will go this path. I hope that's making sense. And so this last one, W. W is walk in your next faithful step. Walk in your next faithful step. This is what you do in the moment. So, like for me, it was I woke up in the morning, I wanted to stay in my comfy bed, and I had to recognize that that feeling, though valid, it's not going to serve me. It's not going to get me stronger. So I had to expose what I was believing. I was believing that the comfort of the present was better than the comfort of my future. And I really want to be strong for the rest of my life. So I needed to get up and go. The truth is, I'll be more comfortable being strong. They exchange the lie for the truth. So, yes, I might be comfortable in my bed, but my future self wants me to be strong. So, we're going to exchange that. And then I'm going to choose what is my next faithful step. For me, that was jump out the bed, go and work out, get my workout on. That same thing happened to me today. I got into like, I had my kid had a whole situation go in the bathroom and I had a lot of cleaning to do. We'll just leave it at that. And I was like, I need to take down my curtain and wash my curtains. Like it got wild in there. And that was during my normal workout time. And I chose to go ahead and take care of that issue. And I went and I did that. And I was like, oh, I don't have time for my entire workout. And in my mind, I think, well, if I don't have time for my entire workout, why do it? You know? But then I had to think, what am I feeling? What's happening? If I don't do what I was thinking was, if I don't do my entire workout, it's not worth doing. But is that true? Expose what I'm believing. That was my belief. If I don't do my entire workout, it's not worth doing. If I don't have time for it. But the truth is, when I do a part of a workout, I'm still stimulating muscle. Not only am I still stimulating muscle, but I'm also strengthening the pathway of just doing the workout, of just doing something over nothing. Okay. And so I had to exchange that lie for the truth. I'm working out more than just my physical muscles. I'm working on a consistency muscle. And it doesn't matter how much time I spend doing activity. If I spend 2 minutes doing my workout, I'm still strengthening the muscle, the connection of consistency. I'm still letting my body know I care for you. I'm doing something. Okay. And then my next faithful step was for me this morning was I'm going to do one set. If I get to the other two sets today, great. That would be ideal. But I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for progress. I'm looking for doing something over nothing because my body will respond to doing something over nothing. Okay. And so these are all situations that we find ourselves in that might limit what we do, limit us from getting the results we want because somewhere along the way, we're believing a lie. This is the biggest thing I want us to think about is start asking, what am I believing that's leading to this behavior? That's the biggest thing. Okay. And then we want to discover the truth. And there's a bit more to this, but it's already 11:34. There's more to this, but we're going to layer it on week by week. And I think this is really important. I know we've talked about hormones. We'll have to see. I have to go back and see if there are any other questions that we want to go over. There's so much we could probably talk about when it comes to hormones as well. But I think this is really important because sometimes me giving you more stuff to do is not helpful, especially if there are things that we are already, behaviors that we're already not doing or desiring to do and we're not sure why. It makes me feel stuck and overwhelmed when I'm like, well, I'm already not doing this or I'm not doing that. I need the strength and power to do all the little things I already know. You ladies are my high achievers. You have invested in yourselves and I know that you are serious about meeting this goal. You already know a lot of the things that you're supposed to do. And the thing about it is you're here for coaching because we're trying to figure out how do we get it done. Yes, you want some guidance too, as far as exactly what to do, but I think this is a part that really makes a difference for me and I see with those who are really really successful, this mindset piece is what keeps us doing what we need to do to get the results we want. And not just to get the results we want, but to be the kind of person who will get the results. Somebody who goes through this process is the kind of woman who will do what they have to do to get the results. They will be the kind of person they need to be to get the results. Because as long as we're believing lies, we're going to have some self-defeating behaviors. And so I think this is super key, even though we're not talking about deep core and all of this. If you got this down, nothing's going to hold you back from being able to get the results that you want, and more importantly, be the person who can get those results, be the kind of woman who can do all the things. Okay, so that's our framework for today. Renew. We're talking about renewing the mind to get the results that we want. We talked a bit about neurons as well. So I hope that was super helpful. I will be putting this inside of the mangoes method under M for mindset, because I think this is super important. And we'll be talking about this again, because I have some other layers that I want to add on to this that I think will be really helpful. And again, I'd love for you to practice, even if just one time today, as you go throughout the day and you come to a situation where you're doing a behavior that you don't want to do, or you're not doing a behavior that you want to do, or you just feel discouraged. Start going into your mindset and think, what am I believing? And is it true? And just ask yourself, is that true? Is it really true? Is there any evidence on the contrary? And this is something that we'll be practicing from week to week.